Steve Furtick said that the reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. If you think about what happens on a film set, the amount of footage that is taken and the amount that's edited and discarded in the cutting room, that gives you a very clear image, visual image of exactly what he was talking about. I watched a really interesting 2-part documentary this week called The Truth About the Cosmetic Industry. And it's something I've always been interested in, but particularly with this massive growth in non-surgical treatments of things like fillers and fat freezers and Botox for younger and younger people. Once upon a time, it was only people in their 40s, 50s and older who were seeking those kind of enhancements and treatments, but it really has become very commonplace for people to consider all kinds of non-surgical treatments to improve the way they feel about themselves, to enhance their appearance, whatever that reason. The question, I suppose, is can you really do that by just changing something on the outside, something that will be temporary anyway? Or would it not be better to work on from the inside out and work on your perception of how you're seeing yourself, how you're viewing yourself? So that was a question, my question for today really. It was a really interesting experiment done in the documentary. They were looking at the amount of images that people take of themselves on smartphones these days, and also the amount of editing and airbrushing that people do before they will publish a photograph. Everything is very instantaneous these days, and the experiment that was done was 2 groups of young women. They measured things like their self-esteem, confidence, body image beforehand, also their tendency to want to have non-surgical treatments. And one group were allowed to just take 1 image of themselves without editing and then to post it. The other group were allowed to take as many images as they chose, with as many edits as they chose, before they selected the photograph and then finally published it. The interesting thing again for me was that the group who were allowed to take multiple pictures and edit the photos, their satisfaction or areas of satisfaction and dissatisfaction with their body image and with themselves and their confidence and self-esteem actually decreased. So it was a small sample, it was a small experiment, but I think it's quite clear that the more you focus on something, the more you focus on the negatives, the more you focus on the perceived imperfections, the more they will grow. And that if you can somehow allow yourself to let go of things, the less you will worry about it. This certainly fits into the science in terms of neuroplasticity. We know that whatever you focus on will grow and whatever you ignore will decrease, and that new neural pathways are created in the brain by the way that we think. So if we affirm to ourselves that all is well, that we are beautiful, that we are enough, whatever that affirmation is, that over time, if we consistently do that, then that is what we will naturally go to rather than to the insecurities. And that idea of being enough, that I am enough, is the only thing ultimately that will allow you to feel at peace with yourself and allow you not to constantly be tempted to compare yourself with others. In these days of social media and the amount of time that people spend on electronic devices, remotely talking, chatting, communicating with others, I think there's a real danger in that again you will be only seeing the highlights of someone's show reel, and that you will see that highlight as the norm, whereas in fact, of course, that is a complete fantasy, a myth. it's just not true. And once we realise that and think about all the footage in the cutting room, all those photographs that were taken and the amount of edits that were made before that one photograph was posted, we begin to see the reality and the truth of how things really are. So using affirmations to encourage and to increase self-care, self-love, appreciation of our bodies, of our minds, of our lives, that expression of gratitude on a daily basis and focusing on the good things will create neuroplasticity, will create new neural pathways in your brain that will enable you to go to those places much more naturally than to the place of insecurity. So I'm going to leave you with those thoughts today around I am enough and self-love. If you've enjoyed this film, please leave me a comment. I absolutely love to get comments from you and any feedback, and consider subscribing to the channel. You'll be notified when new films come out. I'm posting every week at the moment. You can also have a look at my Facebook page, which is Self-Development Leicester, where I post each day. And my website, if you want to contact me, to email me, is Vicky, V-I-C-K-I, marston.co.uk. So until the next time, it's been my pleasure to be with you here today. Good health.